Hey everybody, how's it going? How are you feeling? I hope you're doing great. I am, as promised, checking in with all of you with a free Indian as apple pie cooking class. As I'd mentioned before, all of my cooking classes were canceled over the next 3 to 6 months. That's my major source of income along with my cookbooks. And you know what? I thought I would go ahead and offer up some of these tips and tricks to you all for absolutely free. And I just encourage you to share the love with all of your friends and beyond. I think that there's a lot that I can share with all of you as my mother, as my grandmothers did with me in India. And I think a lot of it can help us even now as we're going through everything that we're going through. Today, I actually want to dedicate this live feed and subject for this live feed to my friend Kay. I love Kay. I love you. Kisses, Kay, because she brought up a really good point yesterday. She said she would love to be cooking all of the interesting things that I'm making, but she's in quarantine and she doesn't have access to all of those ingredients. So I wanted to make something super simple today. Now, I know sometimes because for me, I have everything available, I don't necessarily think twice about it. Not all of you will. You will eventually, because I'm going to show you how to kind of build your pantry, build up your toolbox to make Indian food on a regular basis. And so I am going to walk you through today a very simple recipe that you can probably make already. During this whole process of knowing that we were going to be nesting and be isolated in our homes, we all went shopping. And so the big joke was everybody bought toilet paper. Okay, not me. We're running low on toilet paper. I didn't do that. I bought onions. And then the other thing, though, that I think all of you know that you bought were beans, legumes, right? Because they last a long time. And they not only last a long time, they are incredibly cheap. Though legume prices have gone up in the last year or so, they are still relatively cheap. So let me show you what's a legume, right? A lot of people are like, what the heck is a legume? I think that in the West, we just don't know what a legume is because we don't really visualize it. We don't really see it growing in the fields. We don't have people like in India. You have them selling legumes, garbanzo beans, chickpeas in the pods fresh. And so kids will actually buy them off the carts and eat them just like that. We don't have that in the West, and so there's this misconception of what legumes actually are. Legumes are just seeds that grow in pods. So you've got the umbrella group of legumes, and under that you've got lentils, peas, and beans. So not every bean is a lentil, not every lentil is a pea, but every lentil, pea, and bean is a legume. All right, I hope that makes sense. Now let's go ahead and flip the camera around and show you what I am cooking today. Here we go. We're gonna turn to, well, first we're gonna pick up our copies of Indian for Everyone. If you don't have it, this is my third book. I encourage you to pop on either Amazon or find a local indie bookstore and support them and purchase the book. We have it out in hardcover as well as in paperback. Again, as authors, it's the only way we get paid is when you purchase our cookbook, so I would appreciate the support. I also offer up a ton of free recipes on my website, Indian as Apple Pie, as well. So this page here is 118. Page 118 is right before the section on legumes, and I really break it down with photos. Some of you have asked, photos, are they, your own photos, or did you get them from somewhere? We shot every single picture on the floor of my dining room, and my photographers got this amazing spread put together. I wanted to show what these lentils, legumes, beans, and peas look like in the different forms. Today, can anyone tell me what this is called? I've got two different bowls here. Can anyone tell me what this is? I know a couple of you are live with me and watching. So this is actually, I'll get super close up, a true lentil. It is flat, it is disc-like, it is a true lentil. It is actually the same thing as these. You're probably familiar with these, and I know some of you are saying that they are sold out in the markets. You can go online as well and purchase your legumes, but this is not mung beans, Tom, not mung beans. These are Masoor. So if you look at my photo here, the idea was you can take this cookbook to your grocer and you can figure out what all this stuff is. So Masoor Dal, whole Masoor lentils, sabut, S-A-B-U-T, see that there? Means whole, with the skin and not split. All right? Yeah, we call them brown lentils, but that's not really the name for them. There's many other brown lentils out there. Masoor. Well, how funny is this? It's the same word here, but it's duli. It is not sabut. Sabut is whole. Duli means washed. So it is split, no skin. It is literally the same lentil, but one is in the whole form and one is in the split and skinned form. Why do we have two forms? Well, because they cook in different ways, they use different amounts of water to cook, they taste differently when you get the end product, and we work with them in different ways. So this is one that I could soak overnight and then sprout. I have videos on how to sprout on my Facebook page. Very good to do right now, especially as we look to boost our immune systems. Sprouts help our bodies break down foods, and they give us a lot more protein than just a legume just like this. Once you sprout it, it is growing, it's alive, it is very healthy for you to get sprouts in every day. I try to do that. And then we've got the split and skinned, a little more processed, but will cook up super fast, and it will give you a meal in minutes and tons of probiotics. Exactly. Thank you for keeping me on track, folks. Now let's go to the recipe. Here's what I want to tell you. On my website, indianasapplepie.com, we do still have lentils. We're getting crazy right now, crazy orders from all of our retailers. I just ordered 500 pounds of a split and skinned legume, which is this one. I sell this. I sell the hard to find lentils and legumes. This one you can find everywhere in the Western markets. This one not so much, but it cooks the same way. And can anyone tell me from looking at this what the original legume is? This is a split and skin because it's duli, washed, right? Tom, I expect you to pop in with your answer because you know you answered this earlier. Mung. See, mung. So where is the whole version of mung? It's right here in this photo. This is sabut. This is whole. So when you go to the Indian grocery store and you look at all the different bags of lentils and legumes in the aisles, if they have the same name, they're usually variations of the same legume. And look at this. I'm just going to show you for information's sake. Okay, so we've got the main sabut mung. Split it with the skin, and it cooks differently, different amounts of water. It tastes a little different. And then take that skin off and look at what you've got, this beautiful mung. Now, I sell this one on my website. You are welcome to go and order. I will be in the warehouse alone over the weekend I have to process. Our orders have gone up fourfold since all this craziness has happened because people are finally discovering the benefits of eating legumes, I think. All right, so let's turn to page 149. Is that 141? No, 140, sorry. In Indian for Everyone, Palak dal, yellow dal with spinach. This one is using the mung dal, but you can sub any split and skinned. So this Masoor Dal could be subbed into this recipe if you wanted to do that. All right, now a couple of technique points for you and tips. These lentils in their different forms cook using different amounts of water and different cook times. I have all that in my cookbooks and in my recipes. The key on this one is it is about 4 times the amount of water that you're going to want to use. So 1 cup, 4 cups water, generally. In this one, I use a little less water in this recipe because you're going to see it's 3 cups, 9 cups water, because I want it a little thicker. But generally speaking, on the split and skin, I've been using 1 cup, 4 cups water. And all we're going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and take this over to my stovetop. I've got it all set up here. And I've got my beautiful Dutch oven, Le Creuset. You could use any pot to cook this up in. You could use your slow cooker. You could use your pressure cooker. In the pressure cooker, this will not take more than 3 to 5 minutes. I usually cook it for about 5 minutes, and I could go a little bit less. On the mung dal, just in case you're looking at duli mung dal, that will be about 3 minutes. So half a cup is all I had in the house right now of this legume, this lentil. So I just used what I had, and I'm going to go ahead and put in 2 cups of water. So half a cup of product. Okay, can you tell me how cheap that is? I don't even remember how much I paid for these. It is incredibly cheap. And when I have my other hand free, I will scrape out the rest of the product and put it in there. Not to worry, it will not waste even a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and turn this on. The reason I like these split and skinned lentils a lot is because they cook up so quickly. I can make a quick lunch for my kids. I can make a dinner if I've forgotten to cook that day. I've been busy. I've had a really crazy day. I can go ahead and cook them up. I'm going to let this go ahead and come to a boil. And as I do that, is there anybody that's got any questions at all as we kind of wait for this? And I want to say the points that you're making are so well taken. Even though folks will say, well, I don't want to eat legumes because they have carbs, I always emphasize, first of all, these are complex carbohydrates. They take longer to break down in your system. Very important to get into your system because they are high in protein, high in fiber. I have many folks in the West, friends, that I speak to and I tell them that a chickpea has protein and they have no idea. They didn't even know that. So we need to start thinking about our legumes a little bit differently. Now, granted, if you don't want to add rice to eat it with rice, that's fine. Find something else that you'd like to eat it with and benefit from all of the amazing health benefits in your lentils, beans, and peas. So let's just wait until this thing gets to the point where it's going to boil, and then I'm going to put it down on a simmer and put it to the back, move it to the back so that I can start making my tarka. And I'll tell you about the tarka in just a moment. The other thing I want to show you too is prep. So prep here, I've done it already, my mise en place for my main ingredients. People think making Indian food is super, super complicated. You need, tens, hundreds, whatever number of ingredients. You really don't. These are your main 4 ingredients. So the first one is going to be chopped onion. The next one is going to be ginger and garlic. Here, I've gone ahead and combined them. I can do that with my ginger and garlic because they have the same moisture content. We've got a little bit more moisture in the onion, so you really don't want to combine it because when you go to cook it, it is going to cook up at different speeds. I want to keep those two separate. And then I've got my chilies. Here I've got Thai chilies, and I've got them all chopped up, prepped, and ready to go. The only thing that I don't have here is tomato. If you would like to add a tomato, just chop one up. You can also use tomato paste if you don't like biting into tomato, which my family does not necessarily like. So a little tomato paste will go a long way. If you want to use canned tomato, you absolutely can. Here's the thing on tomato is that we prefer tomatoes that are a little less sweet because our dishes are a little bit more sour, and so the less sweet. You don't want really canned tomatoes that are Italian canned tomatoes, very sweet. You really don't necessarily want that, especially in Punjabi, excuse me, North Indian cooking. You want to be a little bit more careful about what kind of tomatoes you select, but the ones that are a little bit more sour in taste are pretty good. All right, I'm going to flip around and get to my stovetop to see what's going on here. We've got this on a medium-high, and it is starting to boil. So because it is, and I want to do my tadka, I'm going to go ahead and turn on the burner on the back, and I'm going to move this. Turn this off. It's not too hot. Oh, you guys, another tip on using Le Creuset. I learned this from our Le Creuset dealer that is, or Le Creuset representative that is absolutely phenomenal out in the suburbs when I was doing events, is to know whether it's hot and ready to go, touch the handles. As soon as the handles are hot, your Le Creuset is ready to go. It doesn't matter as much in this situation, but if you are, then you can certainly technique. All right, so we are back. I am going to go ahead and plug my phone in because it is running low on battery. So give me a moment. This is what happens when you've got live Facebook going. And there we go. So we're going to go ahead and we've got my phone is plugged in. We're going to go ahead and let that come back to a boil, and then we're going to let it simmer and cook. And you will see how quickly we're going to get this going. So here we go. Here's our small pan that we're going to make tadka in. Tadka is all the flavor you're going to want and need for your dish. This is an essential part of Indian cooking, and it is the one area that I think people that are not Indian don't tend to get quite right. And I always say it is super essential to get this part right, to be able to flavor your main ingredient, your dal or whatever it might be, your curry. But remember, to us, curry is not curry spice, it is a gravy. And we are gonna, now that my pan is relatively hot, gonna go ahead and put in a little bit of grapeseed oil, higher smoke point for the grapeseed oil, that's why I use it, clean taste profile. Use ghee clarified butter if you would like. And that's about all I need. That's probably about 2 teaspoons of oil. I'm gonna wait for it to get a little bit warmed up. And as it warms, what I wanna do is, first, I'm gonna grab with my right hand over here my spice tiffin, because as we did our mise en place for our main ingredients, we want to do our mise en place for our spices. That makes cooking Indian super simple, super fun. All right, so this is nice and warm already, and I'm going to work fast now. I'm going to put some of my hing or asafoetida in here. Here's the thing. This is generally for bloating and gas, to prevent those things from happening, but I have been reading more and more that hing, asafoetida, on the street called devil's dung. Here we go, putting a lid on here. Leave it ajar so that the steam can release. Turn our heat down on our dal, and let's see what happens on it. The interesting thing about hing now is I'm reading more and more, just like haldi or turmeric, It is being touted as an anti-inflammatory. Why is that critical and important? I'm going to turn this off just so that I can talk for a quick second about hing and anti-inflammation. I basically explain it like this. Say you wake up in the morning and you've got a sore throat, okay? You've got some inflammation, you're coughing, you're not feeling so great. Taking in some hing or some turmeric that is an anti-inflammatory, even garlic can help, can get rid of that sore throat. We do it all the time in our house. Most Indians know these little tricks, these home remedies. Use your food as medicine. Am I saying then that you are not to take any medicine again? No, I didn't say that. Do not email me. I will not even take the time to respond to those emails. What I'm saying is use your cooking, your food, to be medicinal, because when you get the right elements into your cooking and into your day, you will feel better. I do believe we have just started to be okay with not feeling so good on a daily basis. We must boost our immune systems and use our food to help us do that. All right, let's go. That was your PSA for the day. I'm going to go ahead and put some haldi in here. I know that my heat is off. The key on using haldi or turmeric is, here's the thing, it is more soluble in a fat. Why do you think everybody drinks these turmeric lattes? Milk is the fat. That is how you are absorbing that turmeric, but that's what the oil is doing. That's what the ghee would have done here. And we are going to go ahead and put it in there just a little bit. Will go a long way. You do not need a lot of turmeric in your day. Just that little bit is enough. And then here we go, cumin seeds. Now, this is your tadka. It is starting. The key on the cumin seed and other spices in your oil or in your ghee, when they sizzle, what they're doing is they are releasing their essential oils. The essential oils are critical. It is like taking garlic and infusing your oil with garlic. For Italian food, I always like to say that use those same principles. So you could at this point put in any other spices if you want cloves, if you want a touch of black cardamom pod, green cardamom, maybe fennel. Play with your spices, but I want to show you how to make a dal super basic. So that was just about 15 to 20 seconds. I'm going to go ahead and go over here to my main prep area, and I'm going to grab my onion. I cannot live without onions. In fact, we ran out of onions about 2 weeks ago, and I gave my husband Indian food, and I chopped up a shallot on the side, and it was really bitter, and I've never seen him so upset. I thought it was kind of funny, but don't come between an Indian or even an Indian American and their onions. And actually what I did was I found I'm a member of Restaurant Depot, so before all of this lockdowns happened, quarantining happened, I bought a 50-pound bag of onions. I will try to take a picture of that and send it to all of you. It was so funny. All right, so we got our tadka going. We are browning our onion. And let's take a look at our dal. All right, it's cooking away. Nice. All right. Let's plug our phone in again, only because I'm running low on battery. Onions are great for you. Agreed. I cannot live without onions. It's a running joke in my family that even at age 3, I would run around and eat everyone's onions off their plates. I'm obsessed. Love onions. Just love them, love them, love them. It's better than being in love with sugary foods, I guess. I'm more of a savory person myself. And then here you go. And it's okay if someone doesn't like onions, no big deal. I mean, that's the point, that if you don't eat them, Tom, there are more onions in this world for people like me. What? All right. And again, you raise a decent point. If you don't like the onion, skip it. That's the beauty of making food at home. You truly do not need to make it any specific way. I'm gonna stretch because my phone is charging and grab my chilies. Now, this is browning probably a little bit more than it needs to, but it's okay. I've been chit-chatting, but that's pretty much as brown as we want to get it. If you felt that it was cooking a little bit too much for you, you can add a little moisture with a little bit of water. And here's the point that you could also add in your tomato if you were going to use it. I just have been making my dal without tomato. My kids don't like biting into the tomato, or I will use a tomato paste, and that is something that we could add in right now for a little bit of color, but we'll go ahead and make it dry the way I like it these days, and then go ahead and put the chilies. Remember, when you put these chilies in, that you're gonna smell them a little bit just because you've got the flavors going, you've got the oil going, it's a tadka is going. And what I want to do is, it is looking just a tiny bit dry for me, so I'm just going to add a little bit of oil, just a tad. Again, you can do that with water if you prefer not to put that oil in. One of the biggest mistakes that people make with turmeric, because they hear that it's an anti-inflammatory, and then they want to eat lots of it, sprinkle it on everything, is you really have to realize that turmeric needs to be coupled with the fat to be better absorbed into your body, and that's why we take this step for Indian cooking. I would say also that you've got to, if you can, add a little bit of black pepper, because properties in black pepper help your tissue absorb the turmeric better. All right, let's look at the dal. You know, Hina, that's a good point. I think that everyone has a different way of making their tadka, and what you're saying is that you were taught to really blacken it, and I was not. And so that's why I say I don't ever approach my Indian cooking to say I have all the answers, because there are so many different regions in India and different ways of cooking. I bet if I came to your house, you would make this dish for me, and it would be so different, but it would be just as lovely and just as delicious. So thank you for sharing that. And there's so many different words too for tadka. So I just want everyone to understand that I appreciate that and I honor it. And I think that's the beauty of Indian cuisine, is that it is just so amazingly diverse. And there's just so many different ways to do it. So don't ever feel that I'm telling you that you're doing it wrong, or that that what I'm saying to do is better in some way. It's the way I was taught, and I love sharing everyone else's experiences as well. All right, so look at this. What's the one thing you notice about this dal? Okay, before you even answer that though, I use the same spatula as I used for the tadka. Typically I'd grab a different one, but I'm gonna put the tadka in here, so it was okay. Now, a lot of Western chefs and cooks will say, wouldn't that be the point, that I would stop all this and eat it? Because we like, in the West, our legumes al dente. No. In India, we like it like a porridge. And so I'm gonna just go ahead and let it cook up even just a little more. And now I'm gonna add my tadka in here. So Hina, great point. Do I skim the foam? I don't. I really don't. You don't really need to. You can. Often I find skimming the foam is more helpful on the beans, like if I'm doing rajma or chana. But other than that, if you've let it soak a little bit, if you used your anti-gas asafoetida hing, you should be fine. I really have not noticed anything, and we in our family don't necessarily do it. And Tom, thank you for staying up, keeping me true to my questions that I'm asking. I sometimes lose my train of thought as I keep chatting. I did ask about what changed, and it was color. So these were orange or salmon colored. And hey, look at this now. They're yellow. How interesting. And the one thing to keep in mind too, sorry, that's the steam that kind of changed the color of the screen there. One thing to note, the difference between the Masoor and the mung. If you have not eaten them both, and if you don't have family traditions of eating these, you may not even realize there's a difference. This dal, though, is more of a earthy flavor profile. And the mung is more of a brighter, lighter taste profile. So we like them in different ways and for different reasons. And as we are talking, look at this, it's already cooked. I'm gonna go ahead and put my flavor into my lentils. Now here's the thing, a lot of people say they don't like lentils, they have no flavor. They don't. Here's a pot of lentils cooking in water. That's it. I've added nothing else, and now I'm adding all my flavor. My tadka is going in, and now you're gonna see this beautiful magic take place. We're not quite done yet because we have to add our other spices. But this, everyone, you could do. Now, have you ever heard of something called khichdi? Khichdi means all mixed up, and it is the equivalent of chicken noodle soup in our culture. And all we would have done is we would have added basmati rice with the lentils as they're cooking in the water. Remember, a little more water to compensate for the rice. So if I have a half cup of lentils, I'll do either a half cup of rice with it or a quarter cup of rice, a little less rice. Just cook it together, and that becomes a porridge, a one-pot dish. And we will eat it just like that, and we usually don't put a lot of tadka on that because it's usually because folks are sick to their stomach, and that's why we give it to them. I could tell you so many stories of visiting my dad's village in Punjab, Bhikki, which is in district Batinda, and I have to say, I love street food so much, I would just continually get sick, and they would be making khichdi after khichdi, and my grandmother would get so angry at me. But I just could not stop eating all of the street food, golgappas and all of that. Oh my gosh. So this is about 1.5 2 teaspoons of my garam masala. Please, if you need garam masala, go to our website and buy it. It is really good. It's very balanced. Look, there's no one perfect recipe for any of this stuff because every North Indian mother, grandmother has their own recipe. I always say it's important to have a balanced garam masala. I'm going to just put out there, I tend to not like to buy my garam masala from folks that are not Indian that are selling it. They don't really know the balance. I worked hard to make sure ours is really, really good. Or go to an Indian grocery store and get yourself some garam masala. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and get a little coriander powder, just a bit, and red chili powder, just a bit. And then the last thing is salt, about a teaspoon. I probably will put a little bit more. I don't want to over-salt it. I can always add more salt. But again, the salt levels in my books are a little bit higher because they compensate for taking whatever you're making and pouring it over your rice. A lot of cookbooks do hold back on the salt to be able to say their dishes have less salt, but then you end up sitting down and realizing they really don't have enough salt in them. So mine are full flavor, and then you decide. If you are on a low salt diet, go ahead and cut that salt in half, add it in later, and then write down in the recipe what you did so you remember it for later. All right, so that's basically my version of an easy peasy dal on the stovetop. Again, you could have done all of this in your crock pot, dump it all in. I'm gonna taste it, give me a second. Awesome. It is so nice and spicy. It's pretty much finished. But I think what I'm gonna do is, hold on one second. This is how you're gonna play around with your food. I always like, even though I may give you a recipe, to show you different tricks. There's my rajma, it's gonna cook up in a little bit. I'll show you little tricks on how to get the technique right. It looks a little thick for me, so I just wanna add a tiny bit of water, and that might be because we had the lid off and it was cooking up. I wanna loosen it up again. And there you have it. It is ready to serve. Now, if you wanna put a dollop of vegan butter, a dollop of regular butter on there, ghee, whatever you want before you serve it, you can. And then we always serve it with a side salad, like on rice or on the side of rice, and a side salad like I taught you to make this week, spicy onions and cucumbers. And you will enjoy your dal. And I agree that khichdi does fix everything, and a lot of people don't realize how easy it really is to make and how incredibly healthy it is. All right, I'm gonna let this sit. I'm actually gonna turn my stove off and just kind of let it absorb all those amazing, delicious flavors. And let's flip so I can see you all. I did not forget the basmati rice. I'm gonna make my basmati rice today on the side. And if you wanted to add it and make khichdi, like Hina and I were talking about back and forth, you can, and that will cook your rice along with your lentils and make what is called khichdi, or all mixed up. In our village, my dad's village in India, they have all these stories of when people would get sick, they'd make that tarka really, really nice and thick in the pot. You have to kind of scrape it out, and like you're saying, Hina, a little darker and really, really kind of cooked down and put it in. They would not add any chilies, no red chili powder, because it would be tough on your stomach. And again, khichdi dal with the basmati rice is the equivalent of our chicken noodle soup. If you actually Google my name, Anupy, and khichdi, you will see an article that I contributed to for the Washington Post years ago and gave them my recipe for khichdi. You can pull it down from there. All right, any questions before we sign off? I want to tell you too is that lentils are incredibly affordable. If you are having a tough time because of this lockdown, if you've lost a job, if you don't know where your next paycheck's coming from, get yourself a couple bags of lentils, cook them on up, get my slow cooker book, the Indian slow cooker, and you can cook it right in your crock pot. It's easy peasy cooking, and it's super affordable. Buy yourself even just turmeric, cumin seed, garam masala, and you can make an amazing, amazing, delicious Indian meal. All right, folks, thank you so much. We will be cooking more together soon. Whoops, we almost got kicked off. Glycemic index of lentils, Cindy, you have to look them up individually. Thanks for the question. I don't know exactly for the Masoor Dal, I'd have to look it up, but I will tell you the lowest glycemic food is chana dal. Chana means chickpea. It is the black chickpea, however, so you could use the whole black chickpea or the split chana dal to cook with, and you would have very, very low glycemic food. That chana dal has a lower GI than even vegetables, so it's really worth getting. I know that number. I don't want to give you the wrong number, so you just have to kind of look it up again. I'm thinking like even around 14, so it's incredibly low. These are going to be a little bit higher, but still these are complex carbs, and thus better for you than some of the other options out there. All right. On that note, let's say thank you to Oliver for being so good. He is in the background somewhere, sleeping away in his little corner, waiting for attention. I'm going to serve this up for my kids for lunch. I've already gotten some text asking for me to bring food up as they e-learn upstairs. I hope you are all doing well. Hang in there, stay healthy, get your turmeric in. Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining.